Every year, millions of people ride San Diego's trains and trolleys. This train's one of a fleet that travels north, south, east, and west throughout the county. This trolley is one of more than 100 that shuttle people between downtown San Diego and the Mexican border. These transit cops aren't actually cops, they're private security guards, two of many who are responsible for keeping the millions of passengers safe. But do these guys, with badges, guns, handcuffs, and pepper spray, really know what they're doing?
If we had a terrorist act, I would say the average TSS officer would have not a clue what to do. You're basically on your own.
How did it come to be that San Diego, the southernmost section of the second busiest rail corridor in the country, relies on private security guards for its front line of defense? Let's go back 30 years. Two government agencies, the Metropolitan Transit System and the North County Transit District, provide public transportation over thousands of square miles throughout the county. Instead of hiring the sheriff's department or the police department, like almost every other local metro system in the country does, they decided to hire private security guards. And they pay the company,
Universal Protection Service,
a lot of money to do that. More than $9 million a year. That money comes from ticket sales and taxpayer dollars. Here are some of the things the officers are supposed to do. Act as primary responders to terrorist threats and incidents. Perform first aid, maintain order, and assist rescue operations at the scenes of accidents and train or bus disasters. Maintain CPR and first aid certification. But according to some of the officers themselves, most don't know how to do any of it.
How we get some of these trainees better training, that probably wouldn't happen.
James Mars, who's been with the company for 5 years, was punched in the face at a busy downtown rail station last November. He was trying to get control of a situation between his trainee and a few angry men. He's one of a host of officers who, over the last few years, have been shot, beaten, and held hostage at gunpoint while on the job. The reason?
The training for this job initially was a, "Hi, how are you? And this is the facility."
In December, a group of them decided to speak out.
There's no formalized, structured training for us to deal with.
In fairness, these officers aren't the only ones who would respond to an emergency along the lines. 2 sheriff's deputies are under contract to patrol North County's jurisdiction, and city police would respond to any trolley emergency. But these officers are routinely called to assist the sheriff's department during searches. They're expected to arrest and detain and patrol dangerous homeless camps alone and at night with little communication or proper equipment. They're almost always the first on scene at any passenger rail incident between Mexico's border and the southern edge of Orange County, and those accidents happen a lot. There were 79 train-related fatalities in California in 2011. So it all begs the question, just how safe are you riding the rails in San Diego? This is exactly the kind of scene transit agencies never want to see happen, but the kind of situation they have to prepare for. That's why last December, firefighters, EMT workers, and law enforcement agencies were all invited to this training exercise at Camp Pendleton. The transit officers worry about this kind of disaster too, but they were never invited. When we contacted the North County Transit District to ask why, they left this message.
They are not allowed to be on the base in uniform.
Uniform or not, the officers say, they're always left out.
Again, I've been here for a little over 4 years, and we've never been on a drill, ever.
The officers say they're unprepared for any collision, derailment, or fatality scene. And these officers are not your standard rent-a-cops. Many come from the military, police, or private security fields. But according to them, little of their past applies to San Diego's relatively unique transit setting. Mo Han was a San Diego cop for 27 years.
As a police officer, if I went to a train crash, I would have no clue how to open doors, windows, escape routes.
This is a different kind of work.
Are the trolleys gas-fueled? Are they electric? Is power going through the tracks? What if someone falls on the tracks? These are the things that we should know. I haven't seen any of this type of training.
Have any of you received anything like that?
No.
But there's an even bigger security breach these guys are worried about. Terrorism.
I know that looking around the world, the attacks that have happened in recent years, and the majority of the attacks have occurred at transit focused areas. So transit is definitely a target.
That's Lieutenant Kevin Franklin, who's in charge of security for one of the state's largest transit police forces, the BART Police.
And we've even seen domestic plots that have been disrupted that have focused on transit.
Franklin isn't the only one concerned. Congressional reports, government committees, security professionals, and even North County Transit District itself have raised concerns about terrorism. But San Diego's transit cops receive no counterterrorism training.
This is a Homeland Security issue that's been going on way too long, been ignored. It's something that I'm afraid that the public doesn't know and needs to know.
We tried several times to interview officials from both transit districts, but they would only respond to emails. Despite what the contracts say and what the officers told us, Metropolitan Transit System wrote, "The primary responsibility of these officers, specifically in response to acts of terrorism and first aid, is to observe and report." Both districts said if an emergency were to happen, they'd rely on law enforcement and EMT workers, not the officers. For its part, Universal Protection Service wouldn't answer any of our phone calls, return any messages, or respond to any emails. The officers who spoke to us did so knowing they could lose their jobs, but saying nothing would be an even greater risk.
We have our morals and, more importantly, our ethics. We have to act out on this. The retribution, it could be inevitable. Don't know. It depends on how the companies view this, how the public views this, if at all. But we're here just the same.